Rugelach is a traditional Jewish pastry often in the shape of a French croissant made with a yeast dough or cookie dough and rolled with a sweet filling to include chocolate, jams, nuts, and much more. They are found in bakeries all over Eastern Europe and in Jewish communities around the world. I'm excited to share my sweet Rugelach cookie recipe that resembles many French croissants but tastes like mini fruit pies. Rugelach is a Yiddish word from Slavic origins meaning horn or little twists, which are what the shape of the cookie resembles. My recipe is a mix of my favorite sugar cookie dough that has cream cheese and almond flavoring, and the Jewish Rugelach that I make with yogurt instead of sour cream. My cookie filling resembles a fruit pie made with strawberry jam, toasted almonds, almond extract, white chocolate, and powdered sugar. They truly are mini fruit pies shaped like French croissants. For the dough ingredients, you'll need butter, cream cheese, yogurt, vanilla and almond extracts, all-purpose flour, salt, and granulated sugar. For the filling and topping, you'll also need strawberry jam, powdered sugar, slivered almonds, white chocolate, and an egg. We'll start by making the cookie dough. In the bowl of a stand mixer or just a large bowl, if you want to do this by hand, we're going to add 6 ounces of softened butter. We're going to add 8 ounces of cream cheese. Using your paddle for your mixer, or a spoon, we're going to cream the butter and the cream cheese until they're light and fluffy. Cream cheese is not an original ingredient in Rugelach pastries, however, it's not uncommon today thanks to Americans. With the machine on low, we're going to add 50 grams, which is a quarter of a cup of granulated sugar, and we're going to let the machine run until everything is mixed well. Okay, next we're going to add 4 ounces, which is a half a cup of yogurt. We're going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and half of a teaspoon of almond extract. Mix until smooth. Dairy, like sour cream, is an original ingredient in traditional Rugelach, but I modernized this recipe a bit by using plain yogurt. I love almond flavoring and find it very agreeable in this sugar cookie-like dough. In a medium bowl, we're going to sift together 270 grams of all-purpose flour, and that's 2.5 cups, with a quarter of a teaspoon, which is about 1.5 grams of salt. Okay, sift them both together. Give these just a quick stir just to make sure they're both combined. With the machine on low, just gradually add in the flour mixture. Mix just until everything is combined. We don't want to overmix this. Okay, that looks pretty good. Scrape down the dough in your bowl. Make sure it all looks nice and combined. You want a lightly flour work surface. When I am rolling out sweet dough, I add a little bit of granulated sugar because that's what cookie dough has in it. It has sugar and it has flour. And so the sugar creates a little bit of a barrier between the board and the dough, so it keeps it from sticking. And the sugar, instead of drying out the exterior of the dough, it adds a little bit of crystallization and a pretty sparkle to your cookie dough. Go ahead and shape your dough. Use flour as you need to into either a ball or a rectangle. And you're going to cut this large dough into 4 relatively equal pieces. So I'm just going to cut in half what I have here and then cut each half in half, so that gives me 4ths. And if you want to weigh these, you can weigh each one and they should be about 198 grams each. Then you're going to flatten each one into a disc. Place each disc in plastic wrap and cover them up. We're going to refrigerate each of these for a minimum of 1 hour to a maximum of 2 days. So this is totally a make-ahead dough. I've made these several days in advance and then made the cookies and rolled them out, and they turned out great. So at this point, put all your discs in the refrigerator for at least an hour. To make the filling, we're gonna start out by toasting some almonds, and these are slivered almonds. So go ahead, preheat your oven, or in my case, I'm preheating a toaster oven, and you want a dry baking sheet on which to put your almonds. Make sure they're sort of evenly spaced there, and just moving it around the counter does that for you. Toasting the nuts is optional, but it brings out the oils and flavors in the nuts, enhancing the flavor of the filling. We're gonna bake them for 3 to 5 minutes until toasted. Careful not to burn them, check them frequently. If you use thicker, bigger almonds, it's gonna take a little bit longer. Our nuts are toasted, and we're gonna let them cool for just a few moments. Then we're gonna add all the rest of the filling ingredients to a mini food processor and then pulverize it all. So to a food processor, we're gonna add 1 cup of preserves. I'm using strawberries. I imagine cherry and blueberry preserves would be wonderful here. And when I say preserves, you could use jam or jelly. It's whatever you have access to. I love having almond extract in my sort of a sugar cookie strawberry dessert. So I'm going to add half a teaspoon of almond extract here. If you do not like almond extract, you can leave it out. We're going to add half of a cup of powdered sugar. So powdered sugar helps to really keep the paste thick because powdered sugar often has cornstarch in it, and so I prefer powdered sugar over granulated sugar for this recipe. We're going to add 1 cup of white chocolate. You could use chips or you could use a bar. We're going to add our toasted almonds. And we're going to pulse this until we have a nice thick chunky paste. Okay, stop periodically and scrape down any chunks that are hanging out on the edges. Notice what a pretty paste that is. So the powdered sugar, since it thickens the jam, it keeps it from oozing out as the cookies are baking in the oven. Okay, once you're satisfied with the thickness, it's going to be thick. You're going to have chunks of almond and chunks of chocolate in here. Then just scoop it into a bowl so you can easily scoop out what you need when it's time to spread it on our cookie. Okay, so now just cover it and set it aside or place it in the fridge until you're ready to use it. To make the egg wash topping, you're going to beat 1 egg with 1 tablespoon of water. So the water loosens up and thins out the egg, preventing a thick egg coating when you brush it over our cookies. If your dough has been sitting in the fridge for several hours or several days, allow it about 30 minutes to sit out on the counter to warm up a smidge because it'll roll out easier. If you forget, no worries, you'll just need a little elbow grease to roll it out with your rolling pin. Preheat your oven to 375 degrees and prepare a baking sheet or 2 by lining it or them with parchment paper and just set it aside. Okay, we're going to take 1 dough disc and set the other 3 aside for the time being. And we're just going to roll out 1 at a time. We'll go ahead and flour your work surface and add a little bit of sugar since we're dealing with a sweet dough. You want to keep your work surface well floured and sugared as we go through the rolling process. You also want to make sure that you can flour the top of your dough if you want, your rolling pin too, and just start rolling it out, adding flour as needed. We're going to roll the dough out to an 8-inch thick circle. Be sure to check the bottom of your dough as you're rolling. We want to make sure that we keep that surface floured and sugared because we don't want our pastry here to stick like it's starting to do, which is why we do that. Because we're going to have to rotate this around as we're cutting it and making our crescent shapes, so we're going to make sure that it can move around easily. The easiest way to make a perfect circle for our cookies, we need a 10-inch circle. This is a 9.5, 10 inches would work great too, so 9.5, 10-inch circle. You can use a cake pan. I'm going to use the bottom of a springform pan, and I'm just going to place it on top with a little bit of flour on it. All right, and then take a knife and you're going to run the knife around the edge of the cake pan or top to get that perfect circle. If you don't have anything that works, you could also just use parchment paper and then draw a circle, a 10-inch circle, and then use that as your stencil. Okay, and then we can remove the remaining dough pieces. And we're going to put this aside and save the remainder for making another batch of cookies after we've combined all the dough that's left from our 4 discs. So we're just going to set that aside for now. Okay, use a spatula or a spoon and you're going to put a layer of our filling in the center. We're going to spread it out to about 1 inch from the edge. And this shouldn't be a thick layer, this should be a thin layer. You can see the chunks of chocolate and almonds in here. You can pat your filling down if you want to. Okay, so this is how we get the actual triangles to make the crescent rolls. Take a knife, we're going to cut the dough with filling on it in half. Like so. We're going to cut it each half in half again. And we're treating this like a pizza pie or just a regular dessert pie. And then cut each quarter in half so that we're getting 8 cookies. So then you take 1 cookie. Remember, our surface is nicely floured so we can manipulate each of these cookies, and you're going to start rolling up at the wide end. You're just going to do sort of a tight roll like you would rolling up a cinnamon roll, like so. And roll it all the way up till you get a nice little looking crescent. And I like that you can see the filling on the edges. Place it on your baking sheet. We're going to continue adding our rolls about an inch apart. Once you have one pan filled, then you're going to brush an egg wash over each cookie. This will make them nice and golden brown. And then come back and with some granulated sugar. I'm using cane sugar. It's a little coarser than my usual super fine that I use for baking. And then just sprinkle the sugar over the top. The egg wash helps to hold the sugar on the cookie. And the cookie itself is not very sweet, so we're gonna add a little bit more sugar on the top so that it can give it a little bit of sparkle, a little shine, a little bit of crispiness, and a little bit of sweetness. Okay, once you're done, place these in the oven for 25 to 30 minutes or until golden brown. While one batch of cookies bakes in the oven, then we'll prepare the next batches of cookies. So if you could get a couple of cookie sheets going on at the same time, then that would be really helpful. The rugelach are coming out of the oven now. So as they come out of the oven, you can go ahead and place them on a wire rack to cool. Okay, let's go ahead and take a closer look at one. Notice how it's nice and brown on the back side. It's an easy handheld cookie. It does look like that croissant. It's got a nice little brown coating. You can see the sparkling of the sugar that we put on top, and of course the egg wash is what helped it brown. The filling looks pretty good when you first look at the filling. There are a few, like this one, filling kind of exploded a little bit, but it didn't ooze out onto the paper. And that's really what we were hoping for because of the powdered sugar and making a paste out of the filling. But overall, they all look pretty good. Got a nice little crunch to it. Look at the filling on the inside. You can see the roll of the dough, the cookie dough there in the center. And of course you can see the strawberry filling around it. So, there you are. While rugelach are enjoyed year-round, they are commonly eaten during Jewish holidays. In fact, the Jewish holiday of Shavuot is June the 5th this year. It marks the giving of the Torah, which are the first 5 books of the Bible, on Mount Sinai. The 10 Commandments are read in synagogues to commemorate this event. Whether or not you're Jewish, maybe make a batch of rugelach and enjoy their indulgent flavors. Many, many thanks for your support in watching, liking, and subscribing. Until next time, go bake the world.